Okay, we have here the V4 to V5 electrical harness migration macro. This macro is specific for electrical harnesses. Okay, as we open this up, you can see there's two different modes. We can run a parts analysis or a migration. I'll go ahead and do the migration. And right now it's asking where to save the migration report that it will generate when it finishes. So you simply tell it where to save the report and push go, and it starts calculating. Now this migration works in conjunction with the native CATIA migration macro. I'll explain that in a minute. Right here it has flagged a part number that was incorrectly entered into the V4 model. So the macro found that, it flagged it, and it asked for a correction. So it gives you the option then for some user input, which is quite nice. And as I was saying, this macro works in conjunction with the native V4 to V5 macro, or conversion macro. But it goes several steps further in finding the actual parts that your company has cataloged. It brings them into place, and then it even connects them up with the V5 harness. Now, as we just sit here, this is real time. There is a little bit of delay in this macro. It has to go through. If you could see in this this conversion, there's hundreds of parts that it's kicking over, so it does take a little while. And it'll go through and it'll flag parts if there are situations where your company just might not have the same parts cataloged in V5 that you had in V4. It will find those parts, and it will place an axis system into the 3D space in the color of green. So you can see several in this example here. Those are parts that don't exist, but they're at least placing the proper axis system in its proper orientation and position, so that when you do find the part that you want to use, you can easily snap it in axis to axis, and you've got your position. Okay, right now as the screen appears to be flickering back and forth, it's actually finding the parts, bringing them in, and orienting them properly so that the V5 part, the V5 harness, looks just as it did in V4. I'll let that go for a moment here. You could imagine if you had to take single-handedly every single part and try to position it with respect to the previous design, it would take a long time. Okay, and then we're finished, and the report that was generated pops up, and you can see right here a list of parts that it could not find. It'll flag those, and then it shows all of the parts that it could find. And you can see there's a lot of parts that it found right there. Okay, and those parts that you couldn't find, you could always, in the future, find those parts and place them back where they should be. And you can see right here as I rotate around this part, here, let me unhide the V4 data. Okay, you can see that these parts are perfectly on top of each other. You can also tell that the harness itself is slightly different, but that's just a matter of the slack settings in the V5 harness, and that's a pretty easy thing to go in and change. And there you have it.